Welcome to the Council of Better Business Bureau's podcast, The Bistro, where we will discuss today's hottest consumer trends, predict the future with consumer experts, and learn how elite businesses and entrepreneurs continue to push the envelope in today's marketplace.
Hello and welcome to The Bistro. For the Better Business Bureau, I'm your host, Elaine Espinola. Thank you so much for listening today. Here at the BBB, we continue to do what we do best, which is offer helpful information to encourage a more educated and empowering consumer experience. The National Cybersecurity Alliance and the Better Business Bureau are encouraging consumers to make their personal cybersecurity a priority. Here to talk about how to protect your digital identity is Michael Kaiser, the Executive Director with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Michael, welcome to the Bistro. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us in.
Yeah, this is excellent because this is really important information. And, I'm wondering, first, can you tell us what the mission and the vision of the National Cybersecurity Alliance is?
Yeah, we really have a very singular purpose, which is helping consumers and small and medium-sized businesses be as safe and secure as they can online. Okay. Really through education and awareness and some key programs that people hopefully have heard of, like National Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October, Data Privacy Day in January, and our very overarching umbrella, the Stop, Think, Connect campaign.
Sure. So it's very clear that this, the work that you do is so important as everyone is online every day. They're connecting, they're doing business, they're sharing information. Can you tell me about the partnership between the NCSA and the BBB in regards to consumers and the topic of cybersecurity?
Yeah, well, this goes back several years now, and the BBB is an incredible trusted brand for consumers around information of all different kinds, but certainly in this case around online security and safety. And it was really important at NCSA. We always partner with other trusted brands. We really believe very importantly that by working together is how we reach everyone. We have a big problem in cybersecurity is that, as you sort of indicated, all of us are online. I sometimes like to say more people are online than drive. And look
probably
how much
true.
And yeah, I mean, because, especially we have kids under 16 online, right? So,
sure.
And hopefully they're not driving yet.
Yeah.
But
and hopefully not driving in online at the same time.
Yeah, well, definitely not doing that. But, and so we have to look at that issue and look at this as a societal safety and security issue and look at the amount of energy and space we give to things like traffic safety and teaching people how to cross the street safely or to drive cars safely. We haven't paid quite as much attention in cybersecurity to that. So by partnering with a brand like the BBB, I think the NCSA brings, messaging that's been tested and developed over time with lots of our key partners in industry and the government. It's kind of a really excellent example of the way we all should be working together to help people.
Sure. That's a really great analogy. We teach young kids and everybody all of rules around society and what we should do out and about to be safe and secure. Are we doing that online? That's interesting. And that's why we're here today to talk more about that. Talk to us about, it's springtime. So we're doing sort of a spring cleaning in our homes. Talk to us about what a digital spring cleaning should look like.
Yeah, well, we look at in the cybersecurity arena, unfortunately, most people first act after something bad happens, right? You hear about a Yahoo breach, you hear about your information being lost by someone who you've given it to, and then you decide, I've got to fix things, right? I've got to, change my password or those kinds of things. But for digital spring cleaning, we look at it just like, occasionally you got to clean out your closet, occasionally you got to clean out the garage, and frankly, occasionally you got to clean up your digital life. And that's really what the idea behind the digital spring cleaning is. And it's really pretty simple. We have some simple things that people can do. We have a long-standing kind of advice for people, which is keep a clean machine, right? Which obviously lines up very well with spring cleaning. But that's really very simple about any device that you have that's connected to the internet has to be kept free from infections and malware. And you do that by keeping all your software up to date.
Sure.
And you do that by cleaning out your apps that you no longer use.
Sure.
And maybe deleting other applications that are no longer in use to keep. And that's everything, by the way. I think some people think, it's just my PC, but it's also your phone, right? It could be your tablet. And depending what other kinds of devices you have, they may have things that need to be updated as well.
Sure. So I want to talk a little bit about a checklist in a moment here. The BBB has hosted Secure Your ID shredding events to help consumers safely dispose of paper files they no longer need. And in recent years, many events have added the electronic shredding to the mix to help consumers deal with old hard drives and other electronic data storage. This year, April 22nd, the BBB offices around the country are offering free events to help consumers do just this. And so I want to know, you mentioned the digital spring cleaning and some things we need to take a look at. I know there's a actual digital spring cleaning checklist created by the NCSA. Can you talk to us a little bit about that checklist?
Yeah, so certainly, we talked a little bit about the Keep a Clean Machine, but we want people to declutter their mobile lives as well. I sort of mentioned that a little bit. Go through your, how many of us really, let's just face it, how many of us have on our little smartphones have a little icon that has a number next to it, which are all the apps that we have yet to update, right? So,
Yes.
just like, the old newspapers are piling up in the garage, it's time to go through either, decide you're keeping them or get rid of them. So that's one of the things. We also, encourage people to just clean out and purge. Right? To really look at what kinds of things they have and clean up your email, for example. A lot of us have subscribed to emails over time and we no longer want them, but they come every day. We just delete them. Maybe we don't delete them. Unsubscribe for some of those lists and take care of that. And then make sure that you back up and all your important files. Ransomware is a big issue out there now. Maybe people have heard about it. It takes over your computer, encrypts your files. You have to pay the bad guys, right, to get your files back. Not a great thing. The best prevention for that is a clean copy of all your files so you can just restart your system, reset your system and start from a refresh and load everything back on. So there's a lot of different things that people can do. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I think is really important for people to do is we like to say you need to own your online presence, right? So all of us are using various sites, right? I mean, we're using social media sites. We're using email providers. We're using, we may belong to news sites or other kinds of things. A lot of those sites have tools and for us to use to tailor that experience, either what's being seen by other people, what comes into us, and really have to go in and tune that up every once in a while, whether it's a security checkup or privacy or security settings. Those are the things that people can do in a spring cleaning.
Yeah, that's great advice. A lot of times when we upload or download the apps, right, so that we can use them, sometimes they take some information and I think sometimes it even asks you, is it okay if we, look at your friends list or this or that before you download this? And people just want the app and they want the information. So they say, sure, but maybe they should go back and take a look at what they said yes to. And like you said, over time, take a look at all those apps and all the information that you're sharing and see if you could maybe stop using some of the apps that you're not using because your information is out there, right, attached with these apps.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And sometimes those settings change over time, sure, right? And maybe when you first downloaded the app, you didn't have an option of turning something on or off, but now you can. So you should be looking at all those kinds of features as well. And again, I remember, just a example from my own life. We took the family down to Monticello to see Thomas Jefferson's home. And on the way down, I downloaded an app of the Constitution, right?
Right.
And then months later, I was getting, well, you need to update this app. And I'm like, well, why would I need to update this app? For one reason, the Constitution doesn't change very much.
Good point. Yeah.
But also, but we're no longer using that app, right?
Sure.
It reminds you that we downloaded an app. Maybe we downloaded an app because we went to a city on a vacation and we wanted to get the hot restaurants, but now we're not going back there for another 2 years. Mm-hmm. Those kinds of things. And we do that all the time on our phones, right?
Sure.
Download it and then don't use it. So that's another element that people should pay attention to.
Sure. And hey, by the way, it's taking up space on our phone.
Yes.
Right?
And sometimes using data in the background.
Yes. So, all of these are really great tips, and they're probably things that people know they should do every once in a while, but to have an actual checklist on your website is a great place for someone to start because we know we should do these things, but we don't always get to it. And I love the idea of, hey, when you're doing your spring cleaning, consider your digital devices as well. I think that's great. Can you share your website and maybe some resources on your website for our listeners?
Yeah, so our main website is staysafeonline.org, and you'll find everything there about all of our tips and advice for people staying safe online. You'll find the checklist. You'll find all the information having to do with the project with the BBB for the digital spring cleaning. You'll find there how you can engage in other activities that we do, like National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, like Data Privacy Day, and the Stop Think Connect campaign. And we also have a website called stopthinkconnect.org, which is really for our larger campaign, which has just a ton of resources on a lot of different topics.
So these are ongoing campaigns that the NCSA does throughout the year. So how can people get involved? So they can go to their website, they can see these campaigns. Can they actually kind of get involved in these things in their communities with some of these programs?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that question, because it really is an important element of what we do. We really count on other people to spread the word.
Sure.
And we also count on people changing their behavior based on information coming from people they trust, like the BBB,
Sure.
right, in this case, who has a long-standing relationship with consumers and businesses, and they trust that information, so it cuts through the noise. So you can come become a champion of National Cybersecurity Awareness Month as an individual or an organization. Join that list. You'll get a lot of information from us about, how you can participate in that campaign, tip sheets, all our themes. You can do the same for Data Privacy Day. We have now we have a monthly newsletter for parents called Cyber Aware, which just really focuses on the family and kids and home security, home cybersecurity. So we have a lot of different ways that people can engage with us.
Yeah, I even saw that there's a place where people can actually learn things on your website, and then they can go ahead and teach online security through links, again, that they find on your website, but at the schools. And they could teach it to students, and they could teach to administrators and in the community. I think that's great.
Yeah, we've been doing that for quite a while. We call that our C-Save program. And really, it's an interesting program because it was started by a chief security officer of a major corporation came to us and said, I go into schools a lot, but I don't know what to tell people. Could you help me create something? We're like, that's a brilliant idea. So we created a bunch of curriculum, and it's actually, it's in bands, for younger kids, middle school, some other stuff. And you can take that, and you don't have to use our materials specifically, but you can, tailor it to your own experience. But it's a way to get started to talk to kids about online safety and security.
Sure. Well, you mentioned that it's a brilliant idea. I think it's also a really important idea because as adults, at least you're aware of yourself. As a child who might be new to, apps and the internet and things like that, there's certainly dangers and lots of things that they need to be aware of. So I personally have kids. That's why I'm perked up when I heard that, because I think it's so important. And again, as we said, children are online more than ever these days. What are some tips that you can share for parents or anyone that watches over children for how children can stay safe online?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, what we say to parents generally is you have to have tips in it for your kids and rules for your kids that are developmentally appropriate, right? So, your 8 or 9-year-old is different than your 14, 15, or 16-year-old, and you have to respect that. But we've been pushing a lot lately for people. We did some research with Microsoft last year and looked at sort of the rules situations with parents in the homes and found that parents thought they had more rules than the 13 to 17-year-old kids thought they had. So there's a disconnect there, right? So we're really rethinking some of the way we've been teaching this, which has been a lot of rule-based. The other thing we found with the teenagers was a lot of teenagers said that they would first turn to their friends before they would turn to their parents for advice. So we want to teach kids how to help each other online.
Sure.
We think that's really important. Talk to your kids about what would you do if your friend came and said they were being harassed? What would you do if your friend came and said they were being bullied? How would you help them? Would you know where the line is between where you could help them and where you actually needed to get a parent involved? And then when you do have rules that are enforceable. That was one of the issues. I mean, it's very hard to enforce a rule like I'm going to see every single app that you download when you can't see every single app that they download.
Sure.
And when we know, I think 60% of the kids had opened an account that their parents didn't know about. So, you can't track every little thing.
Sure.
In the same way, when you send your kid out into the world and say, okay, go over to the store, it's 3 blocks away, you don't know everything they're going to see between your house and the store and back, but you have to prepare them to deal with what's along the way. So we focus on that. And when we look at the rules, we look at rules that are enforceable, and we look at rules that actually apply to everyone in the family, like when you can use your devices as a family, right? How each member of the family, what you're allowed to post and not post about each other, right? This is a family situation, right? And kids have interests in that as well. And then enforcing those collectively as a team.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So if you're listening right now, make sure you go to staysafeonline.org to find out some of these resources, and definitely make sure you talk to your kids about it. So, Michael, I want to thank you so much for joining us today in the Bistro. You've provided a lot of great tips for consumers around personal cybersecurity, and they're so important. We hope that our listeners take this information and use it, and more importantly, share it with people that you care about. Michael, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having us in. We really appreciate all the great work of the BBB.
Oh, well, thank you. The BBB is deeply committed to building and advancing a better marketplace, a trusted marketplace for all, because trust always matters. For the Better Business Bureau and as your host of The Bistro, I'm Elaine Espinola, and I thank you for listening, and I encourage you to give us your feedback on this episode. Until next time, it's been my pleasure discussing better business with you.
You just enjoyed the Bistro podcast. Be sure to tune in next month for a brand new episode. To learn more about our other shows, visit betterbusiness.blueberry.com. That's betterbusiness.blueberry.com and subscribe. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are the views and opinions of the guests, not those of the Better Business Bureau, Council of Better Business Bureaus, or program affiliates. This podcast is for information and educational purposes only and is copyrighted with all rights reserved. This podcast is protected by Blueberry's Terms of Service.